Hi, and thank you for joining us for our Ask the Candidate series. Today we have Anthony Nugent with us from the Sustainable Australia Party. Now, he's Anthony Nugent on the ballot, but he's known as David. So thank you for joining us today, David.
That's my pleasure.
And first up, could you please describe your vision for the future of the electoral district of Dubbo?
Sure. In context, I loved a saying I've read years ago was the only person who believes in continued exponential growth in a finite world is either a madman or an economist. So we can't keep on growing forever. Nothing in nature can. Plagues and cancer try, but they get undone. So we've got to work sustainably, work out what sort of level of growth we want. When you're an infant, when things are small, you keep growing. That's why, oh, look at Johnny, he's growing. But if he gets to 6 or 7 foot and keeps on growing, then you've got a problem. So I'd like to see our area, our future, look to see what is a sustainable, good level of population to have. What size do we want to be? That's sort of the first step. Then you've got to set some goals. You have management stuff. They say if you don't plan, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. You can't keep on just growing forever. So with our party, we say we want to protect the environment, we want to stop overdevelopment, and we want to stop corruption, political corruption. So if you put it in perspective of the environment and then overdevelopment, I think Dubbo is probably big enough as it is. It's certainly up for debate. It's not a debate most people have. Everyone assumes, oh, it's got to keep on growing. We've got to have more population. To what end? We've read that we're going to get a 4th McDonald's. Are we going to be happy or better if we get 10? I think there's a level we need to stop at. So I'd like to see a serious debate on how big we'd like the population to be so that the next big drought we get, we can have enough water to keep our lawns alive, which we didn't in the last go. Everyone had to, the gardens look terrible. That's going to happen again. When you go down the street, how many people how compared to what it used to be like. So what sort of size we want it to be. And, as far as other things, I don't want it to stop developing, but I want it to be better, not bigger. So I'd love to think in the years to come, I've known so many people lately that have had their houses broken into, their car keys stolen, and their cars taken. I'd like to think in the future we could go to sleep at night without worrying about whether we've locked every door, locked every window, whether there's kids wandering the streets, or maybe they're at home with good families. That would be a good goal to have.
Thank you for explaining.
That's a big picture. Yeah.
Big picture, thank you. And secondly, what key housing policies or key housing issues does your policy specifically address?
Okay, and if you look at the big picture, housing is a function of supply and demand. Everything you read is say, oh, we've got to have more of this, more of this, more of this, because the population is going to go in Australia from 25 million to 50 million, or going to keep on growing forever. And it's always the dog chasing its tail, and it's never catching up with infrastructure. You've never got enough housing. You've never got enough schools built when the suburbs are built first. So housing's they all talk, oh, we need more supply, more supply. But if you went back and looked at why do we need more supply, why is there more demand all the time? We used to have population increase in Australia, immigration was about 60 to 80,000 people a year. We've been running around about 200,000, except for the COVID times. So that's just pushing population up and up and up. And then we've got a housing shortage. So the short answer to the housing shortage is have a sustainable population, and then you won't need to be forever chasing the tail, building more and more. And the other, so get the two in balance, and you probably can't stop just look at just Dubbo, but if Australia's population tapered off, and we said what's our goal, what do we want it to be at, then there won't be the people being pushed out of Sydney, and I'd rather tell people that, no, Dubbo, I think the beer's flat, the weather's too hot, the cold, the flies are cranky. No, I think it's big enough. Don't bother coming. But they're going to keep coming while they're spilling out of Sydney. So let's go back a step and have a look at Australia's population. But the other thing is the type of housing, particularly in Dubbo. Years ago, well, you still do, but if your first home, your first rental, there were so many blocks of flats built in Dubbo. I put that much furniture and beds and things into so many of them. I could walk in with my eyes shut and go to the right bedroom, put the bed in the right place or whatever. I don't think there's hardly been any of those built. There's just a few I see popping up looking nice, but we got a sea of 3 and 4 bedroom houses squashed in on little blocks with stupid black roofs. Now, how silly is that? In a hot environment, try to make the house hotter, got to put in a bigger air conditioner. Think about some good design and what's better for the environment, but appropriate housing for what the requirements are. There's probably needs to be more bed sits, more one-bedroom places, nearly like motels for people that come to town for, to start with while they find somewhere. But you come to town, and as you know, the majority of the stocks either seems to be 3-bedroom houses, that especially what's being built. And then you've got the confusion. People want houses to be a status symbol. They want it to be a financial investment, and then they want it to be a good shelter. Switch that around a bit. Put the priority to be building good, efficient, livable living spaces, and take a bit of the emphasis off this investment and status and so forth. So we might get some better product on the market.
Interesting. Thank you for sharing. And when you look around our region, it's clear to see that the Biodiversity Conservation Act 2016, and specifically the offset scheme around that, is having a disproportionately adverse effect on regional development. How do you plan to bring change?
I had the great fun of reading through that. It's always amazing. You think something's pretty simple, but I don't know how many 100 pages it is. But look, when you read through it, it starts out and you can see it's very well intentioned. Australia, we are world champions, best in the world at species extinction. We have to do something if we're going to be responsible. So the Act looks like it's trying to address that.
Yeah.
But then when you move on and you see, but we're going to allow you to damage things, but we're going to allow offsets. It's like saying to Mother Nature, I'll go over and hit you in the head, but I'll go over somewhere else and I won't hit you in the head there, so give me an offset. The damage is still being done. So I really think the idea of allowing damage to the environment and then giving offsets, it's pretty fraught with problems that's going to come. It's similar to carbon offsets. We pull carbon out of the ground that's been in there for millions of years, 60 million years or whatever. And then we say, but we keep on doing that. That's okay. We'll let you plant some trees and some grasslands and offset that so you can absorb some carbon back in. But how long are those trees going to live? What happens if you get a bushfire through that? I actually know of an example where someone with a large property in Queensland, I think it was about 30,000 acres, they got carbon offsets to lock up and make sure they maintained 15,000 acres of that country. That gave them enough money to go and clear the rest, which they wouldn't have done to start with. So you really got to look at some of these offset plans and look and see what the net result is, because some of them are just, they're just fraught with danger, and it's really not going to work, I don't think.
Thank you for explaining. And what professional experience and history qualifies you to hold a paid position of state influence?
Look, I'd like to go into that a bit, and it might be good for the ego or embarrassing, I'm not sure. But you and I know quite honestly there's no chance of me getting elected. So if we look at it in the context of why I'm doing it, if I can help raise people's thoughts and consideration of the environment of overdevelopment, of corruption in government. And it's not, doesn't have to be levels of corruption like old Eddie Obeid with, straight out with hand in the government till. But while you're in, with our current state government where, sitting members are lining up cushy government jobs for when they retire, that's a form of corruption. Or when, marginal electorate gets given a whole stack of money that the department and the experts say that wasn't warranted, but they're trying to use it to buy political votes. That's a form of political corruption. So if I can help raise awareness of that, I'm not going to get elected. But we do have someone standing in the upper house. So if I can raise awareness of our party and be shown on the voting tickets, and people can have a look and say, they look like good ideas. Where do we want to go in the future? Are these the sorts of things we want for our environment, for development, for corruption? Hey, we're standing someone in the upper house, so hopefully this might raise awareness of that, and we're really hoping to get someone into the upper house to have some influence on these issues. Maybe just call out the emperor's new clothes on a few issues.
Thank you for sharing. And what specific benchmarks? I know you've sort of said you're not expecting to get in, but I guess if I just rephrase it slightly, what specific benchmarks would your party use to determine their time in office was successful if they are elected?
Yeah, it's really something that a lot of people should think about, and politicians, but honestly, I think most political parties, their sign of success is whether they get elected again at the next election.
Yeah.
That seems to be truly, if you really have a look into their soul, that's what they're about. When they're in opposition, they said they wanted this, or, and then they changed their mind. Oh, why? Oh, because the government's agreed to that now, so we've got to be contrary. Or, I don't know. So I think too often they just want to get elected again. So I'd like to think if the end of our time, if we were able to bring influence for some better environmental outcomes, if when we started to read the paper or see people being interviewed, it wasn't just, oh, well, we have to do this development, we have to do this, because the population of Sydney is going to go from 5 million to 10 million, so we must do all this development. We'll go back a step and say, why must the population increase so much? Because when you keep trying to add infrastructure to already built places, that infrastructure is so much more expensive. Building tunnels, huge tunnels and things like that, trying to catch up. And they say, oh, it's going to cut driving time by 20 minutes. Well, funnily enough, driving time to the middle of Sydney is still about the same as it was when I started doing it 50 years ago. I used to be able to drive down to Lane Cove or Sydney Uni in about 5 hours. And it's still around about the same. We've got all these motorways, but the traffic congestion is so much higher. So have we improved? No, we've only just treaded water. So what are we gaining? So I'd love to think that people could start to question where we're going and have some goals. A bit of an aside, I came across a thing years ago from the Onondaga Indian Nation in northeastern America. They were 7 tribes that get together and meet. They all debated and argued and whatever, and then go away and come back, and they had to decide using one principle, and it was, will this be better or worse for the 7th generation from now? That was it. In their heart, that's how they had to vote. And if they kept voting the wrong way or doing the wrong thing, the women of the tribe could sack the chief and appoint another one.
Interesting.
So, it was interesting. One of the best levels of governance I've come across, actually.
That's really interesting. Thank you for sharing. And how would you respond if there was an issue that came up that conflicted with your personal values and your party's values?
I think the first step there is parties should really vet their candidates and make sure they're on the same page. It may stop a debacle of getting a rat bag like Lydia Thorpe elected and then leaving the party and stuff like's happened recently. So if parties vetted their candidates properly, and not just for the how good they looked on the mantelpiece or how well they came across, but whether they were true. But then the next step, obviously, is, to me, you have to be true to your own values and principles. So, if parties are only focusing on winning the next election, and you say, hey, but that development, that's not going to be good for the seventh generation from now. Oh, but we need to win the next election. Well, sorry, that's not for me.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much, David, or as you'll appear on the ballot, Anthony Nugent, for your time and sharing your thoughts with us today. Appreciate you being involved.
My pleasure, Laura. Thank you.